Over the last few weeks, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people who are just getting very nervous about life, and specifically finances. You turn on the news or you go online, there it is. Reports on money. It feels like it's inescapable. News about the economy, job rates, inflation. And as we go through life, as we go through everyday life, we see it everywhere. Prices on everything are up. Groceries, gas, utilities, home prices, construction material. I just got an email that Netflix is now more expensive. I read a report this week that says used car prices went up 32% in the Twin Cities. It's amazing. Another article I read, parents, buckle up for this one. The average cost for a babysitter is now $20 an hour. It's a good business. I'm glad our teenagers aren't in here because they'd be looking around going, your prices just went up. You know times are tough when Little Caesars finally had to break down and raise the price of their $5 pizza to $5.25. Who saw that news a few weeks ago? Inflation is up, spending is up, and debt is rising. It feels like it's all bad news. But here's what happened in many of you as soon as I said money. You got nervous, and you started thinking about where the doors are and what your exit strategy is going to be. Listen, I want to challenge each of you, don't disengage today, because this is actually an important conversation. It's a perfectly natural and normal thing to talk about money. You probably do it all the time in your daily small talk. Like you probably said to somebody at work this week, man, I can't believe it. I paid $3.69 for gas this week. Can you believe that? My aunt was posting on Facebook the other day. They were on vacation. They were driving through Arizona. They paid $4.69 a gallon for gas. It's unbelievable. We do it all the time. It's common small talk. But for many, it makes you nervous when we start talking about money in church. Truth be told, I still get a little nervous to talk about it. But here's why we need to have a conversation about it. Money touches every area of life. So far this year, we focused on conversations, fundamentals of faith, fundamentals of what does it mean to be a disciple of Jesus, fundamentals of what does it mean to choose joy no matter what the circumstances are. So talking about money might make us nervous, but if we understand that the issue of money is absolutely fundamental to our relationship with God, it can radically transform our lives, it can change our kids' lives, and it can change the lives of others around us. Beth and I, we had dinner with some pastor friends this past Monday, and we were talking about how important it is for the church to talk about how we handle money and what our attitude toward money is, because it's a discipleship issue. And because it's a discipleship issue, we need to look honestly and regularly at the topic. And I'd say this, in boldness, I would say this, for some of you, this is the issue that's keeping you from going all in with Jesus. The issue. So, some of you are nervous right now. Oh no, what's he going to say? Some of you walked in, or you heard this when I sat down and started talking about this. I knew it. I knew it. They just want our money. Of all the days we chose to come to church, and a snow day at that, we came today. We should have stayed home. If that's what you're thinking, I'm just going to say this. Don't give. Keep your money. No worries. No worries. Don't give a thing. We will not treat you any differently. Everything we are as a church is available to you because we love you and your family to us. We'll pour into your kids and we'll do it gladly. We'll minister to you just like everyone else and then some. So if you think that the church and all we want is your money, don't worry, don't give it. No worries. I don't want the church to be your excuse. I just want to pastor you well and teach you about this the best way that I know. So I'm not preaching today. We're sitting and we're having a cup of coffee, and I just want to talk with you. And I'm thankful for pastors who have taught me, who have talked with me, I'm thankful for mentors. Actually, I'm adapting some teaching that one of my mentors, Rod Loy, taught. And so I'm excited to get to talk to you about this today. See, here's the deal. Jesus had a lot to say when it came to the topic of money. 11 of Jesus' 39 parables had to do with money. 25% of his teaching had to do with money, possessions, and wealth. He connected money and discipleship 35 times. 35 times he talked about money and discipleship following God. So if you don't want me talking about money in church, you're going to miss much of what Jesus was teaching about and a lot of conversation that was happening in the New Testament. Jesus talked about money because it's one of the most pressing issues in life. Money significantly impacts almost every area of life. Even in his day, people struggled with how to handle finances, how to honor God with their money, and how to have right perspective on their belongings. So I'd like to spend the next 3 weeks, today and the next 2 Sundays, talking with you about 3 principles that can transform your life. These principles will change your finances. They can change the stress level in your life. So I'm just going to put all the cards on the table, okay? So there's no hidden agenda. I'm going to tell you what my goal is for this series, all right? That was like an audience participation moment. I'm going to put all my cards on the table. I'm going to tell you what the agenda is for these next 3 weeks. Number 1, I want you to be financially free, living by God's systems, not man's system. You need a healthy, sustainable system for all these kind of uncertain times. Why? So that you can experience supernatural provision and supernatural peace. How do you do that? You start with a systematic approach to budget and debt. Now, I'm not going to teach budgeting in this series, but you need to have a budget. I know for some of you that's like a swear word, the B word, budget. But you need to start with that. To help you, we want to help connect you and go through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. We're going to throw a slide up here on the screen. There's a QR code. Talk to the team that's done Financial Peace University with us in the past. We'd love to help you connect. So if you're interested even a little bit about finding some financial freedom and learning some good strategies on budgeting and investing and how to pay down your debt, scan that QR code or go to connect.reallifemn. It'll take you to our Connect card. All you have to do is say, hey, I'm interested in Financial Peace University or interested in FPU. We'll get you squared away. And I'm actually going to go one step farther with that. It costs $130 to take that class, okay? It gives you a year's worth of access to all of their budgeting tools and all of their resources. If that's a barrier for you, I'll make you a deal. If you front the money, if you do the registration, go through the class, and you attend every single week, it's 9 weeks. If you go all 9 weeks, if that $130 is a barrier for you, I will reimburse you at the end of the class, okay? Because I don't want that to be a barrier. I want to take away all the barriers so you can experience financial freedom. Pay up front, go to every session, and I will reimburse you. I haven't even talked to Beth or the board about that yet, but I want to invest in you because I believe in you, and I want you to see that there's nothing like living in financial freedom. I want that for you. I want you to live in financial freedom. The second thing on my agenda is this. I want you to be blessed, and I want you to be a blessing for others. That's it. I want you to be blessed, and I want you to be a blessing for other people. I want you to model what it looks like to lead the way in spirit-led, irrational generosity, both for the family of God and for those far from God. Because Jesus said it this way, it's more blessed to give than receive, and I want us to take him at his word. If Jesus says it, we probably can trust it, right? I want to see you do more from the kingdom of God than you ever thought possible. So I want you financially free, and I want you to be blessed so you can be a blessing. And the third one is this, and this is probably my most pressing point in the agenda. I want us to change the narrative for our kids and for young adults. Many of us, what we saw modeled when we were kids was crushing debt and stress that wasn't able to be overcome because of it. But we have the opportunity to help kids and those under 30 see what it looks like to live in financial freedom and generosity that they're going to outpace us with, and they can do even more for the kingdom of God. It's an incredible opportunity, and I want us to steward it well. If you're a young couple, if you're a teenager, if you learn these principles and you start living them, you can radically change the trajectory of your life. You can have a completely different kind of life if you live debt-free. Church, this is mission critical. We need to model healthy finances for our kids. We need to teach our kids how to handle money in a safe, sensible, and healthy way so we can help them change the narrative. Some of us, we've really messed up on our finances. Let's learn this together, and then let's talk about it and be open about it with our kids. They see us. They see how we handle our money. They're watching us. They're learning. With every single purchase or every single investment, they're learning because they're watching. So I want you to be financially free. I want you to be blessed and to be a blessing to others, and I want to change the narrative for kids and our young adults. That's it. That's my agenda. There's nothing else to this series other than that. How big of an issue is money? Capital One took a survey back in 2021. It said this: 73% of Americans rank finances as the number one stress point in life. That's more than politics, that's more than COVID, that's more than work, and that's more than family. All of those were less than 60%. For the two younger generations, millennials and Gen Z, those numbers go up. For millennials, it's 82%. For Gen Z, it's 81%. And it's going to go up because they just don't know what they don't know yet. They're even more stressed about money. So as disciples of Jesus, the only way that we're going to bend the curve and see those stats changing is by learning God's plan and his design for money. We need to learn from him, his ways, his plan, his rules to be free from the stress and the anxiety that's caused by families, for us and for our families. That's it. That's the whole agenda. Everything is on the table. Why tell you this? Because I want you to be at peace that I have no personal stake in this. My agenda is 100% focused on you, not me and not the church. These principles that we're going to talk about, Beth and I, we've adopted these. When we were younger, we had debt. We got a lot of these things wrong. But the principles that we've been now walking out for years, our lives are fundamentally different because of walking under Jesus' system. We have a few nice things, not a lot. We're provided for, and we have lower stress. No, I didn't say no stress. Okay, real life church. Of course there's stress, but it's a lower stress because we're committed to making these principles core values in our lives. See, here's what you don't know about money. Either intentionally or unintentionally, you have a system. Unintentionally, which means you just accidentally have a system, or intentionally, you've created a system. You have a financial system in your life. As disciples of Jesus, we're called to be different than the world. When it comes to finances, normal is debt, broke, stress, worry, tension. No matter what area of life it happens in, when we follow the world systems instead of God's, we get out of alignment with God's design. So what does normal look like? Well, let's just look at it practically for a minute. Normal would say this: spend everything I have or everything that I make. Many of us, we're probably in the mode of pre-spending every dollar. It's tax refund season. How many of you already have plans on how you're going to spend your tax refund? Lots of plans. Listen, this is how we live life a lot of times. Whatever you get, you spend. You push it right to the limit. Stimulate that economy. Spend that stimmy money. The reality is, though, many of us spend more than we make and we accumulate debt. Normal says, well, I'm just going to do what I want and I'll pay for it later. Some of us were taught the principle of compound interest, and we think credit card is just free money. Oh, no, 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 no. I can just do what I want and pay for it later. I don't need to have discipline now. I want what I want. I'll have discipline later for retirement. I'll have discipline later for debt-free living. I don't need to demonstrate patience and trust right now. That car, that TV, that new phone, whatever that shiny new thing is, click, buy it now. I'll just get it now and I'll pay for it later. I can't be inconvenienced by having patience. I'll just put it on a credit card and it'll show up in 2 days or less. Normal says, I need more stuff and I deserve it. I deserve it. We can't get enough stuff. We're obsessed with stuff. We buy bigger and bigger homes to pack full of more and more stuff. Some of us have so much stuff that we're paying someone else to store it for us. More, bigger, better, new, improved. I need it, I want it, and I deserve it. Advertisers thrive on you. They prey on you. Pastor Taylor touched on it last week. They do an incredible job telling you that your life is lacking and that you don't measure up, and that their product is the only thing that's going to fill that void. Not only do you need it, but go on, you deserve it. You deserve that new car with a big red bow on it in your driveway. The catch is that no one cares if you can afford it or not. So you just accumulate more and more debt. Normal is crushing debt. Normal is stressed out. Normal is always tense because of money. And normal is flat broke. That's how most people live. And if we're not careful, we can too. That's why talking and sometimes even thinking about money can be stressful. But for us, what's more dangerous when it comes to our faith journey, we start turning those messages around toward God. I need it. I deserve it. Do what I want and do it now. But here's what I believe. I believe God has something different for you. He has a different way for us to relate to money and stuff. And over these 3 weeks, I want to teach you 3 principles, one per week. See how that works out nice and clean? One principle today that can help you change everything if you will allow God to readjust your attitude and your priorities. You can experience a different kind of life. How's that sound?
Yeah, really good.
But here's the catch. The order matters. The order matters on these principles. 2 of the principles that can radically change your life only if you've adopted the first principle. I don't want you to tune me out because you see 3 weeks is going to be centered completely around giving to the church. It's not. But the order matters. The second 2 do not work without the first. So here it is. The first principle that can change your life is this. We put God first. Everything else is built on this. We put God first. Maybe I shouldn't have to say it, but because we can get so twisted up over my finances and how we handle money, it's back to basics. If we want to see God's blessings, no matter the area of life, but especially with our finances, we have to honor God with obedience. We put God first. That means we have to follow his instructions. That might seem obvious, but many of us, we don't make that connection. We disobey God's instructions, and then we wonder why we don't receive God's blessing. The unintended message is this: God, please bless my disobedience. I don't think any of us would actually say that, but the unintended message when we disobey God's instructions is, Lord, bless my disobedience. Here's some examples. Parents, you don't bless your kids when they disobey you. You expect them to follow through, right? You give an instruction, you want to see it followed. You bless the obedience. We don't bless disobedience. We disciple it, we correct it, we teach and we reinforce the value and the principles so that next time we see obedience, we can bless it. Kids, are there any kids actually in the room? Kids at home, they're watching online maybe. Kids, you want your allowance? You want your phone? You want your Xbox? You want your driving privileges? Those are blessings. So you have to obey. You disobey, you lose the blessing. How about at work? How many of you have been promoted or been given the huge annual bonuses after you've disobeyed your director's instructions for a year? No, it doesn't work that way. Of course not. It's the one that shows up, does the work, and follows through. It's the same with God. Obedience is connected to blessing. Obedience is connected to blessing. If we want to see God's blessings, we have to obey his instructions. And this is where we can get tripped up. We can do everything right. We can budget well. We can invest. We can give away money to good causes. But if we don't obey God, we're not experiencing the full blessing. We have to study this principle of honor and obedience first because everything else is built on the foundation of obedience. One of the most familiar passages when it comes to money is found in Malachi 3. Many of us can quote Malachi 3:10, but let's take a look at the context for a minute. God is speaking to the nation of Israel through the prophet Malachi. He's calling them back. He's calling the people of Israel back because they've wandered away from God. They've abandoned him. And their response, the people's response to Malachi is this, like, we're still here. When did we leave? We don't know how we left, and we don't know how we can return. How do we do this? And God's response to Malachi on how people left him is connected to their heart and their attitude about their money. Look at verse 8. This is God's response to them. Should people cheat God? Yet you've cheated me. But you ask, what do you mean? When did we ever cheat you? And his response, you've cheated me of the tithes and offerings due me. You're under a curse, for the whole nation has been cheating me. And here's verse 10 that many of us know. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, so there'll be enough food in my temple. If you do, says the Lord of heaven's armies, I will open the windows of heaven for you. I will pour out a blessing. See the obedience and the blessing? If you do, I will pour out a blessing so great, you won't have enough room to take it in. And then it's the only place in Scripture where he says this, try it. Test me in this. So the principle here is that the promise of blessing is connected to the obedience of tithing. The promise of blessing is connected to the obedience of tithing. It's the starting point of obeying God with your money, the tithe, the 10%. We call it first fruits, 10% right off the top. Okay, here's how it works. I can see I'm losing you. You remember that day when you cut somebody's grass and you were young and you got $10? And you got it in singles because you can roll them up in your pocket and it feels like you got $1 million rolled up in your pocket? You got $10. These are actually really clean too. These haven't gone through a vending machine. You get $10. Man, I'm so rich. You're a kid. Like baseball cards, bubble gum, candy bars, Pokemon cards, whatever it is these days. God blesses you, provides for you. You got 10 signals. And God says, tell you what, you give me one, and you can do whatever you want with the other 9. You go, I can keep $9? That's a good deal. I'm happy to give you this one. You don't want 2? God says, no, just 1. Just trust me with 1. I'll bless that 9, and I'll make it go farther. I'll do more with that 9 than you can with that 10. And you go, that's a good deal. I wish there was a kid in here. I want to give him $10. Okay, come on up. Here, $10. Hustle, hustle. I'm running out of time. And there you go. God's giving you 10. He'll do more with the 9 if you give him 1. And then maybe you're in high school. You cut 3 yards per week, and you get $100. $100. You got 9 10s. God, you get 10 of these. God says, I just want 1. You go, wait a minute, I can keep 9 of these. If I just give you 1, you don't want 2? You go, that's a good deal, God. I'm happy to do that.
Did you want to give me 90? Did you take one out?
No, because it's not up to me. You really rushed up here. And then you get your first job out of college and you get $1,000. This isn't Bruce's funny money. You get 9, you get 10 of these. You get paid. God says, I'll give you 10 of those. All you got to do is give me 1. All you got to do is give me 1. But now life is starting to happen. You got bills to pay. And you go, wait a minute. That's $1,000. God, that's $100. That's a lot of money. See, what happens is we get the perspective mixed up. At some point, we start messing with the amount and not the percentage. Nothing's changed except the number of zeros. Nothing's changed except the number of zeros. God loves you, and so do we. Now listen, I'm not telling anybody what to do with that money. But God says, if you just give me 1/10, I'll make that 9 do more than you could possibly think. But the catch is, we can't focus on the amount. We have to focus on the percentage. See, what happens is, instead of obeying, we give God a taste. Well, you give me 100, well, I'll just give you 2. Or you give me 1,000, I'll throw a 20 your way, because that's a lot of money. Instead of obeying, we give God a taste, a sample. At worst, it's just a tip. You feel better because you feel like you did something, but what you really did is you disobeyed. Obeying God isn't about the amount, it's about the percentage. Disobedience happens when we scale the amount and we focus on that. Whoa, God, that's a lot of money. Hold up. Instead of obeying with the percent, the tithe, it's 1/10. When you disobey God's system, you move out from under his blessing. And I know some of you right now are thinking, Jim, that's rigid, that's legalistic, and it's performative. I just see it differently. I see it as an honor issue. God asked for the first 10. So I'm going to honor him. When I choose to disobey God, I choose to live without his blessing. So I'm going to choose to honor and obey. Moses leads the people of Israel out of Egypt, right? And they've only known slavery for 400 years. They don't know how to live on their own. So the first 5 books of the Bible are all about Moses teaching the people of Israel how to just be free and be the people of God. Look what he says to them in Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 26 through 28. It says this, look, today I'm giving you the choice. You can underline and circle the word choice. I'm giving you the choice between a blessing and a curse. Here's the choice. You will be blessed if you obey my commands, but you will be cursed if you reject them. You'll be blessed if you obey, and you'll be cursed if you reject. Simply put, I want to obey God and experience his blessing. Full stop. So I'm going to obey. If you want to live according to God's system and follow his plan, the starting point is to tithe, giving God the first 10%. But Jim, here's the question. I know it's coming. How can I do that when everything is costing more right now? That's the point. Now more than ever, we need God's help in this area of finances. A healthy outlook on obedience and a healthy outlook on finances produces an even healthier outlook on finances. It's a natural progression and the fruit of honor. Obedience leads to health. Maybe you've never heard it, but financial health is a huge blessing. So what are the obstacles? What do we tell God? What do we negotiate with God? Or what do people tell me? I can't afford to tithe. It's not about affording, it's about honoring. It's an honor statement, honoring with your first fruits. What's your priority? What matters more? Buying stuff or obeying God? Have you looked closely at all the things you've spent money on to see if those things are a barrier to you obeying God with first fruits? Is it tithing or is it Netflix or Starbucks or overextending yourself on a house or overextending yourself on a brand new car? Is it going into more debt or is it giving back to God what's his to begin with? Our posture is this. My posture is this. I can't afford not to tithe and be outside of God's blessing. Tithing is the Old Testament way. That's not the New Testament way anymore. You just read 2 Old Testament scriptures. I'm out from under the law. Listen, Jesus affirmed the tithe when he confronted the Pharisees in Luke 11. Look at verse 42. What sorrow awaits you, Pharisees. The King James Version says, woe to you. It's one of the 7 woes of Jesus. Woe to you, Pharisees. You are careful to tithe even the tiniest income from your herb gardens, but you ignore justice and the love of God. You should tithe, yes, but do not neglect the more important things. For Jesus, the tithe was just the starting place. It was the starting place for more good works and even more obedience. And if we're really going to live the New Testament way, buckle up. Remember a few weeks ago we looked at Acts chapter 2? We're getting into a whole different category of obedience and generosity and our posture around money and stuff. Acts 2:44. All the believers met together in one place and shared everything they had. They sold their property and their possessions and shared the money with those in needs. That's a completely different kind of radical generosity. Last time I checked, everything is more than 10%, right? Greater than, less than, it's 100% is more than 10%. That's radical generosity. Or I'll hear this once in a while, but Jim, I'm faithful in my giving. That's a tough one. I'll give it to you. That's a tough one. Excuse me. Faithfulness is the fruit of the Spirit, right? I'm being faithful with my giving. Malachi 3 didn't say that God would bless faithful givers. It was obedient givers. Being faithful and disobedient are opposites. Jim, that's legalistic. I don't see it that way. I see God blessing obedience. Jim, I'm not going to tithe because you just want my money. Well, I've already dealt with that. I said that right at the very beginning, but I'll talk about it here. Beth and I tithe to the penny every single paycheck, 10%. Every month, it's the first thing. I get paid monthly. Every month, it's the very first thing that we do. Here's a bold statement for the day. If I ever quit giving my tithe, I'll quit. I'll quit. I believe in it that much. I tithe. This is what I do. My role as your shepherd is to be right there in this with you. I'm not telling you something that I'm not willing, like I'm not going to do this, you have to do it, but I'm not. No, I'm right here with you. Beth and I want to lead the way. So can we say it this way? Follow us into blessing. Like do this with us and watch what happens when we do this together. For years, I wrestled with crippling debt. My posture was this. No, that's my money. That's my money. By the age of 20, I had over $25,000 in consumer debt. Like, what moron gave a 20-year-old that much credit? But guess what? They owned me, and they were making 25% on me. I wanted what I wanted, so I bought it, to blazes with the consequences. But when God got a hold of my heart in earnest, I made the connection. My disobedience in this one area was making this statement to God. Your provision isn't good enough. When you live life under crippling debt, your statement to God is, your provision isn't good enough. And I was slapped in the face by the audacity of that statement. Like Taylor said that last week, I had this Job-like moment of, who am I to say that to the creator of the universe? Beth has always tithed, ever and always. She'll never not tithe. First fruit, but that first gift, 10%. Right off the top. And as I got my heart in line and I started tithing, God helped us do the work. He blessed us. We had to work. It wasn't magic. But God has blessed us. Yes, he's blessed us financially, and yes, he's blessed us in other ways. I drive a car with almost 200,000 miles on it. I still get over 30 miles to the gallon in that car. It has a lifetime warranty on it, and it's paid for. I drove that car almost 150,000 miles on the original brakes. God made that car go farther, literally go farther. We don't have any credit card debt. Last year, Beth barely worked. She took care of her dad, and she barely worked. As a result of the COVID stuff, and then with her dad going into assisted living, Beth hardly worked. I mean, we just had our tax appointment, and her income was so small. Have things been tight? Yup. Did we ever lack? Not once. Not once. Not once. But did we ever once not tithe and try to make our own way? Not once. Not once. Why? Because we know obedience and blessing are connected. Every year we look for more and more ways to give. It's more blessed to give than to receive. So this isn't something that we just tell you to do and then it funds our life. Okay? Disconnect that. I told you at the beginning, that's not my agenda, not in the slightest. This is who we are and this is what we do. And if we ever quit, I'll quit. I'll walk away from doing what I do. I believe in it that much. We practice this so that we can demonstrate for you what this can look like. What's the principle? Put God first in everything, every area of life. Jesus said it this way, seek first the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. The context, we're going to look at this verse in context next week. The context is talking about food and clothing and shelter. Obey God. That's the live righteously part. Obey God and do what he's asking you to do. He'll take care of all of those needs. The context is about worry and stress and planning for tomorrow. Tithing is our way of making sure that his kingdom always comes first, not our kingdom. Tithing is our way of reaffirming to God that we trust him. Look at those increased prices and the inflation and all the uncertainty. Logic would tell us to cut back our giving to 5% or to 1% or to stop giving at all. But I am firmly convinced, this is a sincerely held belief that will not be shaken, that is that we cannot outgive God. He will prove himself faithful. I can't tell you how many times I've seen God demonstrate that for us. It happened just recently with our miracle offering. It was a stretch. I just told you Beth's income is way down. We prayed about miracle offering. We felt like the Lord spoke to us and gave us a number. And the day that we chose that number and planned and made our checkout, we got a check in the mail to the dollar for that amount. It's crazy. I'm firmly convinced we can't outgive God. Even when we look at uncertain times, God has shown up and brought peace. We don't waver. We always tithe and then some. Jim, that's extreme. I know. I just can't live any other way. It's not performing. It's not treating God like it's a vending machine or that he's obliged to transactionally bless me. It's a statement of honor. I honor you. I trust you. This is about your ways, not my ways. Every time I teach on giving, I want to jump to the end and talk about irrational generosity. That's where all the incredibly fun stuff happens. But it would be wrong to jump ahead because the order matters. It would be wrong to jump ahead because the order matters. Honor and obedience come first. Generosity comes after blessing. We'll get there in this series. That's the most fun part. But we have to start with God first. Faithful obedience leads to blessing. So I joked about the exit strategy lately. And I'm sure the question in your head is, what's he going to do when he wraps up? Are the lights going to dim? Is the music going to start for another offering? The music's going to start, but it has nothing to do with an offering. Is Jim going to send an email with a big emphatic plea and a call to action? If you're a member, can you expect a letter this week? Is an elder or a trustee or is Jim and Beth, are they going to show up at the house this week to talk to us about giving? If you're looking to join the church or if you're checking us out for the first time or if you're watching online, can you expect a letter this week or an email this week? Is anyone going to come and ask to see your tax return or to look at your giving record? Nope. Not at all. No offering, no nothing. Just this statement. It's not between you and me. This is all about you. This is about your relationship. This is with you and God. That's it. The tithe is about how you honor God. So here's how I want to end today. I just want to tell you this. Every area in life, you will experience blessing when you obey God. It's true in your marriage. It's true in your relationships. It's true with your family. It's true at work. It's also true with your finances. This just happens to be one of the most tangible areas in life. That's why it's so hard. It's pressing. It's right there in green and paper or on your phone all the time. So I just want to pray over you. That's all I want to do today. My only ask is that you would trust God and that you'd be here the next 2 weeks as we talk this through. Trust God and show up. Trust God and show up. We trust God by putting him first. This is what we do.